So I had this thought yesterday, and I was explaining it to somebody, and I wanted to explain it to my friend here, who will.
Caesar here.
All right, he will. I was going to say he'll introduce himself at his own pace, but that happened very quickly. So what? So the last couple of years, with all of this, let's say lockdown nonsense and the masks, one might go like, "What's going on here?" And you could point out a lot of things that are going on, but I had a perspective the other day. I've been reading like spy novels, let's say, and meanwhile, I've been doing what most Westerners don't get the chance to do, or they just don't take the time to do, which is looking at the Chinese politics, right? So basically, apparently, China wants to have another cultural revolution. So a cultural revolution is basically when a communist regime, usually at the start, and for varying amounts of time, based on what they need to do and what they can get away with, they purge their community of everything that doesn't fit in. So what am I saying? So they essentially want to have another cultural revolution, and in order to do that, they're going to have. Well, first off, why do they want to do that? They want to do that because since they've adopted a capitalistic system, they're richer. There's a guy named Ma, I believe. Like I forget his first name.
Jack Ma.
Jack Ma. Jack Ma.
Alibaba, right?
There we go. I think he owns
AliExpress.
See, exactly. So he's one of the people. Like there are some people rich enough to more or less be able to fight the CCP, and meanwhile, since they've opened up,
I don't know. He could actually though. Didn't he like disappear for like a month?
right? But they needed to disappear him, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like he's gotten rich enough where it's like, oh, you're not a comrade. And then on the other side, there's like, you know, China is opening up to more of the world, and they're able to see that a lot of their propaganda is not accurate about other people and about how things work and why they work that way and things like that. So their culture has gone in a direction that they don't quite like because they've westernized. So in order to have a cultural revolution, they're thinking we can make this one more than 5 minutes because there's more than one person here. You are new. So what am I saying? I'm saying that they don't like where their culture has gone and they want to purge it. And the thing is, so obviously a lot of large international companies make a lot of money on China, on those workers that are getting paid change, and meanwhile they sell these products that they make, these electronic products, for more than they would even sell them if the workers were getting paid a certain amount. Like these people, somehow they'll make 90% or more profit off like the iPhone. Doesn't even make any sense. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that these people didn't want to lose the business. They don't really like the idea that China wants to have its cultural revolution because it'll have to cut itself off from the rest of the world. But China doesn't care. You know, China doesn't just want globalism, it wants its globalism. So basically, the large globalist factions seem to be trying to convince the communist culture controllers that international cooperation, let's say, is not as harmful to their cultural control as it might seem, let's say. And if you, it seems abnormal unless you look at how China has been for the last 50 years, at least, with people wearing masks, things like that. They're very used to a lower standard of life. And they're used to needing permission, extra legal, but governmental permission, to kind of go through everyday life. So, yeah, how do you feel about that theory? Or what do you think about it? Or do you think it's accurate? Or you have something to add to it?
I mean, honestly, I think at the end of the day, money talks, bullshit walks. That's the saying. So China could do what it wants, but at the end of the day, if monetarily his best course of action is to stay the course, even if it wants a cultural revolution, it'll probably do it slower or stall if it sees that it's gonna mess with the people at the top's money. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So the globalists can have no say, but at the same time, they are in control of a lot of the money, so they will ultimately have some say.
Well, they clearly do, and that's the thing. So it's like, okay.
But then at the same time, it is, I mean, you can see in the public media that there is kind of a power struggle between China and our own, media companies in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
China gets to dominate the what they do, how they show China, and how they reference them.
Red Dawn had to be about like North Korea.
Something like that.
Like if North Korea has like any sort of ability to do any of that shit.
But then simultaneously they
that actually happened. They made a remake of Red Dawn.
No, I saw. I didn't see the movie because it didn't seem interesting.
Because why would you even like now? How could North Korea? North Korea can barely. Those people are malnourished.
But you have to create some enemy, right? Who are they gonna?
The Chinese.
Yeah, but if the Chinese controls your production company in a sense,
who gives a?
Then what are you?
They should love it. You should love it. If you weren't actually that thing, you'd be like, yeah, let's be comic book supervillains. Like how many Russian actors are like, yeah. How many German actors are like, yeah, and they have to do it. They have no choice. They're villain. They're cast as villains. And lots of people are cast as villains. Sometimes people who are generally cast as heroes are cast as villains. But it's so on fucking point that they like that it would come out that there'd be Chinese people.
Well, the
China,
thing is,
like,
they're willing to.
And they were already cheering for the North Koreans.
Portray those roles though, because of the monetary gain. A culture doesn't gain anything monetarily as a culture itself. You get what I mean?
People control.
But what I mean is like the depiction of being a villain is only acceptable to a person when they have something to gain.
That's true.
But a culture doesn't have anything to gain,
and they were losing
by being depicted as a villain itself. That's the difference.
That's what I was gonna say before. Like the reason why they're doing this is because the culture is collapsing internationally.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, the culture's collapsing internationally, so...
I mean, really it all depends on the framing as well.
Right,
because
that's what's collapsing.
In terms of creating like a universe where North Korea could invade the U.S., well, I mean, in a sense, if there was like a giant EMP or something, or solar flare or something that knocks out our entire, all of our electronics... Then a little like third world type country like North Korea could possibly actually invade with boats and sticks. It doesn't matter, right? Like at that point.
Okay, but once those people, that's what happened to China. Let's say so. China was doing, let's say, an economic invasion, right? But then once those people realize, oh, we're not poor due to nature or due to some evil foreigners or anything like that. We've been poor all this time because this guy's been using us. Then, all of a sudden, that person, whenever that person realizes it, it's because they've done a certain amount of work, and they're like noticing how things work, right? So they're going to have the ability, the work, the power in their hands. And at the same time, they're going to realize, oh, and I've been being used. This guy's been treating me like I'm stupid. And that's sort of what's happening in China. So they're trying to, cut down on happiness, let's say. And it's already been happening internationally, but the West is already critical of government. The West, we're not as critical as we should be anymore, but philosophically, at least recently, last 200 years, we at least acted like we had discovered some amazing thing, and it's true,
or a percentage.
Yeah, I'm saying the West, Western civilization.
Because,
we have airplanes because we let some jackasses own their own bike shops.
But things have evolved to where now
We didn't
a
let them
segment of
win.
the population does in fact perceive government as basically,
A deity.
a deity, yeah.
Yeah. We think the same.
Yeah.
We think the same. Okay, so this is gonna come out about 10 minutes. So do you have any like final thoughts? I don't really.
Not really, except that I do find it. I don't know how China's cultural revolution, where they're like removing feminine men from the media and public and all this other stuff, how is it going to coexist with the current globalist movement of promoting LGBTQ
And that's what I'm
stuff everywhere?
But
is it possible to coexist?
only
Only if China does typical hypocrisy, which is control it in its country but promote it everywhere else.
well, what have they done here? Here, oh yeah, we're perfectly fine with all that shit. But some people are still allowed to be, to be offensive in that way, So what have they been doing? They've been like, oh, who's the real minorities? It's Chinese people, And that way, when they break, it's the same. It's like every culture that breaks all those rules that we as Westerners consider like, oh, it's modern civilization. There's like, no, that's a victim. They wouldn't be breaking all those rules if blah, blah, blah. And I'm afraid not. Like, don't get me wrong. Everyone's a victim and everyone's a hero and everyone... But people make decisions and, we're adults, like children. Yes. I do not blame children. Do you blame children?
Then again, it can coexist, because if you think about it, we know the brands that China manufactures and creates for. We don't really know or think about the brands that exist in China that do the manufacturing itself.
Absolutely.
So it technically could work, I guess.
Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's going to work. I think they wouldn't be pushing the illusion of stability so hard if there was stability. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Stability need not be an illusion.
Makes sense.
Well, maybe in government it does. Anyway, so I'm a peace out, people.